Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Capacity Management 101, How to Get Started. We're excited to talk to you today about capacity management and discuss some of the core concepts required for a successful implementation in today's hybrid IT environment. My name is Julian Carlin. I'm a sales engineer here at Help Systems. We're in Eden Prairie. We're just outside of Minneapolis, Minnesota, here at the corporate headquarters. And joining me today from our office in Gothenburg, Sweden, is my colleague Per Bauer. Per leads our global services and pre-sales teams, supporting customers worldwide with sales discussions, training, implementation, analysis, management, and strategic services that address their planning and delivery needs. And just to give a brief background of who we are, Team Quest is a brand within Help Systems, and we're obsessed with our customer success and have worked closely with them to ensure that we're providing the capability expected to manage all of today's modern IT components through a single pane of glass with our product Vityl Capacity Management. Our hope today is to provide you with a better understanding of how you can help your organization run more efficiently through a successful capacity management strategy and implementation. So thanks for joining us. If you have any questions, you can post them in the questions portion of the GoToWebinar. Today's agenda will be covering what is capacity management, going over some basic concepts there and definitions, then talking about the business drivers and benefits of why you would want to implement this process and product. Talk about the challenges, and then the desired outcome. And then we'll go over some of just a high-level introduction of our product and the components there and have some time for questions at the end. So with that, I'll pass it over to Per. Per, how you doing? Go ahead.
Good, thank you. Thank you, Julian. So I'll start with trying to sort of define what capacity management is for those of you who may be completely new to the subject. So it's an IT management process that aims to optimize the performance and the efficiency of your infrastructure and the resources that you have in either in your data center or in whatever cloud service that you're subscribing to. So making the most out of your investments that you make in compute and storage, basically. It's about the here and now. So optimizing the performance of the current environment, but it's also about forecasting and trying to understand and plan for the future to mitigate risks due to growth or due to other circumstances changing your environment. So then sort of the napkin pitch for why you need to do capacity management. If you look at a company and there's an assumption that over time the demand for resources will increase, whether those resources are, as we said, on-prem or in the cloud. If you don't know anything, you have sort of a sourcing mechanism that put those resources or make those resources available to you. If you don't have a way of forecasting, the only way to find out is through some sort of incident. You're running out of resources, your disks are full, or you're out of CPU power, or something that is grabbing your attention. And then you deal with those and acquire some additional resources, and then you run for a while until something else happens. Rather than doing this, because this is going to impact the quality of your services, and it's going to, it's not a sustainable way of managing your IT. A lot of organizations are deliberately over provisioning. They're raising the roof and buying a bit more than they know that they're going to need in order to deal with it. This can be very costly, of course. The larger operation is, the more this is going to cost you. So the purpose of capacity management is basically to try and avoid this extensive over-provisioning and drive efficiency in your operation, but at the same time, safeguard that true capacity need that you have. So not be overly efficient or try to save too much, because then you're going to jeopardize the quality of your services. So it's a balance between spending and saving money on your IT infrastructure. So the drivers for doing this for different companies could be a number of different drivers. So we're only going to briefly touch on those, but the most common one is probably, business critical services that needs to be operated with high reliability. It will impact your reputation or your customers' view of you if you don't deliver with adequate performance or they're always available. Could also be things like wild shifts in business activity over time. So you have seasonality in your environment, and sometimes you're going to use considerably less resources, and sometimes you're going to have peaks where you really need to provision a lot of resources. And in order to make that efficient, you need to have a good understanding of when those peaks happen and to manage those peaks and troughs in the best way. It could also be a business growth. For example, you have an organization that is growing rapidly, or you're onboarding really large customers in big chunks. Then you need to be able to try and plan for that and to bring them on safely. Could be a cost optimization, so doing more with what you've got, or making sure that you're wisely using the resources that you've already acquired or already invested in. Could be regulatory requirements. If you're in certain businesses, industries like financial services, for example, there's a ton of different regulatory requirements around having a contingency plan for capacity. Could also be provisioning lead times. If you're in an organization there where it takes a long time to provision new resources, a reactive approach is not a way forward, because when you realize the need, if there's 3 to 6 months to get that on the floor, it's probably too late. So you need to have a way of forecasting and understand before the need happens, needs to be provisioned. So those are a few of the drivers. If you look at this from an enterprise perspective and how you would use capacity management, so one part of it would be the providing all the data about how the infrastructure, all the components, whether it's on-prem or in the cloud, how they are being used. So reporting on, so basically metrics about usage and utilization of resources. But you also need to combine that with some feedback on how your services are doing, because if you don't do that, you're going to just blindly trust your utilization numbers to tell you the truth. You're probably going to fail. So you need some sort of end user experience monitoring. You need to understand whether your transactions are finishing in time, et cetera, to put the raw data about utilization and performance in perspective. So you need a bottom-up, you need a top-down approach. You also need to forecast the future, because if you're only trying to react to things, you're probably going to fail from time to time. So you need to be able to understand new initiatives, changing priorities, new demands, etc., and build those into your plans. And then over time, you also need to review how you have performed. So did your forecast match the expectations? How did it turn out? Or were we accurate in our forecasts, or is there a systematic error that we can change something? There could also be things like correlation across different parameters or different components that you didn't really realize. So having access to the data from all those other top-down, bottom-up forecasting processes allows you to review and use that data to constantly improve how you do things. So there's information flowing in multiple different directions, and there's different requirements for information across the enterprise for doing capacity management. So the benefits, if you do this and if you do it right, is that you can increase your efficiency. So you can do more with less, reclaim resources that aren't being used, or repurpose them for new needs and defer new investments. You can reduce your risk. You can mitigate risks before they happen or altogether avoid them. You can also improve your agility. So if you know where you are, if you have a good understanding of your current capacity position, it makes it easier to take on new challenges or explore new opportunities, because you can act with a bit more confidence. So the benefits, are not just in terms of risk mitigation. It's also around efficiency and improved agility. So Julian, over to you.
Cool. So this is not just implementing a tool or another easy initiative. This is a larger approach. There's a process behind it. And so what are some of the challenges? Well, capacity planners are overloaded. Oftentimes they're wearing multiple hats. They're working on different projects, and capacity planning is just one piece of what they do. So it's hard to focus and provide value oftentimes. The process can be rushed and inaccurate, and that's because they're using multiple tools. It's maybe siloed approach. You have your security team, you have kind of your new initiatives or dev team, and everybody is in their own world, so to speak. So that's can be challenging to reach across these barriers of teams. Also, there's a skill shortage in the marketplace. The capacity planner used to be an important position and role in the organization, and now with cloud and as the environments change and it's not just a typical data center IT footprint, these roles of capacity planner or capacity management folks are coming by the wayside. So some of the common pitfalls are, if you don't have sufficient SLAs defined, how can you say that you're meeting the goals of the organization? Another one is you have teams that might be reluctant to give up resources or to change the way that they're doing things to adapt to this new process. It's important that you have, sponsors from the top level of executives, and you have some champions in place to drive this initiative. So, you need to have those incentives. And then low-hanging fruits in the upper right there, it's important to get some early wins with this process as you implement capacity management. And so oftentimes people overlook the quick and easy goals that can be met through this. So also another pitfall can be insufficient or incorrect source data. You don't have a CMDB that's defined all your resources appropriately. That can be a good example of a common pitfall. A big one, of course, is no appetite for change. So as most of us know, it's really difficult to implement a new process or a new product, and that's because change is hard for people. Defining a strategy. So capacity management is a strategic initiative. It's a process, it involves a product, and it involves people. So it's important to have a defined strategic initiative of what are the early wins that we need to get out of this, and what is the long-term strategy to implement this process and define how we're having success with it. So successful implementation will generate incremental value. As you're moving forward with the process, you'll achieve more and more successes. Your organization will be running more efficiently, and you'll be delivering business value to the executives. Again, involving technology, processes, and people. So you need support in all of those areas. Some of the desired outcomes, I'll pass that back to Per. So what are we trying to achieve through all of this?
Yeah. So as Julian mentioned here rightly, I mean, it's not a implementation of a technology or a product, even though our solutions are very comprehensive and will take care of a lot of, will make it much simpler and much more quick and efficient. You also need to change the way you approach this topic in the organization in order to get full value out of it. So in order to guide in that, we've defined a maturity model that ranges from chaotic up to value in 5 different steps. Each of those steps, it's an incremental approach. So it's a hierarchical model where you go from the level you're at to wherever you make sense for you. So we typically, when we engage with customers, we do an assessment of their current maturity, but we also try to understand what would make sense for them, how far they should drive this, because you may be in a situation or in an industry where it doesn't make sense to drive things all the way up to value to perfect this process. You may stop at say service, and that's where you're going to get the most value out of this process compared to the investments. So each level of this maturity model has a people aspect, a process level, and a process aspect and a technology aspect. So we look at them individually and try to sort of glean where you are. For each level, there is a certain set of characteristics that sort of describes organizations that are at that level. So when we work with our customers, we, the first part of the journey is focusing very much on data access, so getting access to all the accurate data, both the technical data, the instrumentation of how the infrastructure, data center or cloud or whatever it is being used, and also data about context, so understanding which pieces of infrastructure belongs to a specific business service, so that you can report up on a business level, business service level, rather than just talking about technical components. The step after that is transforming that data into useful information, so that you can actually take action on that data and not just look at the raw metrics, but insights, creating insights of that data. And then the next step, the last step, is to contextualize this data to influence the rest of the organization, because you haven't really achieved anything until you actually get people to carry out those recommendations. So communicating the results in the best possible way, so that the rest of the organization that aren't as familiar with capacity management and capacity planning can understand what they need to do and execute on those recommendations. So for each level, there is a certain benefit that you will get out of it. It's not strictly, you're not going to strictly focus on data access on the lower levels, etc. But the main focus will be around those topics, sort of. So, but this is a model that we've used with great success with a lot of our customers to help them, bring on this fairly sophisticated process and make it useful and to get this incremental value out of it. Just for completeness, these are the different levels and what we mean by them. I'm not going to get into details here, but ranging from chaotic, where you don't really have a conscious effort at all regarding capacity planning and capacity management, over to reactive, where you try to perfect your ability to react to events, and then eventually you're going to turn that into something that is a bit more proactive, where you can hopefully prevent some of those things from happening altogether. And then at the service level is where you start to do, full-blown scenario-based planning. So business scenario for a business service, and how that will work for your, how that will manifest itself in the way you provide your IT services. And then at the top level, the value level, is where you will get this prescriptive analysis that is completely aligned with your business objectives. So as we said before, the top level may not be for everyone. You might find that the proactive or the service level is where you should aim, and that's how far you want to bring this. But that's something we can assist you with, and make an assessment of what is your desired maturity level.
So just to give a brief overview of our product, Vityl Capacity Management, we have 3 key areas: performance monitor, key performance indicators, and capacity plans. So what does each one do? Well, performance monitor is to monitor, what's going on now or what happened in the past. You can look at any systems or a group of systems, and then you can do performance analysis on this, deep dive into, okay, what processes are causing, this peak in CPU or what happened there. And you can drill down into different groupings of you can look by 24 hours or by the 1 minute data, however you like, down to 1 second. Then we do performance reporting. So this is to keep users or management informed regarding the efficiency, and basically to have a successful implementation like we talked about before, it's really important that the business side of your organization has their SLAs defined. You can make reports to kind of tie the two together. So you have your SLAs, and then you have, reports from IT, like how is your IT footprint performing? How are all your systems performing? So that you can have business value dashboards that show a real world view of how your IT organization is performing. Now, going over to capacity plans, this is to do trend analysis and to do capacity modeling. So you might have a scenario where the business is going to grow 30%, or going to have an acquisition. Any type of modeling or future modeling that you're doing, that's what capacity plans is for. So you might want to say, well, what happens if we move this host machine with these VMs up to the cloud? And you could look at, how will this perform? What type of instance will we need? Or maybe another one would be migrating workloads to a different host machine. All of this future planning is done through capacity plans. One key point here is that this is all within one product. So there's one license, one product, and we feel that's really important. In the marketplace, there's many different vendors, and I feel that it's nice to have something that has a single pane of glass, and you don't have to install different components. It's all within one mobile-friendly web application. Now, beneath all of this is an automated analytics layer. So this is doing all of the modeling, all of the machine learning algorithm stuff that we have developed over the years. So this is supporting all of the three components that make up Vityl Capacity Management. This is an example of some of the dashboards that are common in the use cases. So here you see a data center dashboard, but basically, again, it's just to provide visualizations, provide helpful reports that give you a glimpse into everything that's going on. So whether you have Docker instances or you have a data center on-prem, cloud, whatever it be, you can bring in all of that to a report and have it show live or emailed out weekly, whatever your needs will be. This is a very flexible tool to create those. So that helps you to monitor all of your infrastructure and report on multiple sources of data. So you might have your network data, your disk data, everything can be tied in together through these dashboards and reports. And next we have Performance Monitor. The approach here is to quickly provide a glimpse of what is happening now. And you see there on the left, these various different components of CPU, memory, and that gives a live view. And then you can drill down into each one and see exactly what's happening in real time as well as in the past. It gives you the capability to group different workloads or different system components that you're looking at, and it's actionable. So you're able to look at this and immediately see, you can drill down into processes if you need to and immediately investigate what's going on and take action on it. That's Performance Monitor. And then we have Capacity Plans. And this tool it's very easy to use and it's accurate. And again, you walk away with it with a plan. You can see, okay, in this example of the screenshot, we say, okay, what happens if the business is going to grow 10% in the next 6 months? And it goes ahead and looks through, in this example, it's looking at workloads, but it could look through virtual machines, cloud instances, and it does this predictive modeling, not in a trend, but as Per showed earlier, with our modeling analytical layer, then it shows these results and it's easy to take action. You can see which workloads are showing risk, and then it will give you prescriptive advice of, okay, you need to upgrade your CPU. You can move forward with those actions, plug it into the plan, and see how the results take effect. It might show that you need to also increase your throughput, and so you can go forward with those plans. So that's just a brief glimpse into our product, Vityl Capacity Management. We use very lightweight data collection agents. We take a microservices approach, and it comes together very well into our product. So any questions from anybody?
I think there was one question in the chat window that I wanted to pick up. What happens to all of these things when organizations are putting things into the public cloud? Is capacity management still relevant, or planning still relevant? And I think the question to that is yes. We had a brief look at the different drivers for doing capacity management to start with in a early slide, and I think everything on that slide, perhaps except for the provisioning lead times, are still true. I mean, if you have business critical services that can't fail and you need to understand, how to manage growth, or you need to have an approach to managing shifting activity. So if you have peaks and troughs in utilization of your services, etc., you still need to plan and you still need to understand how the capacity is being used. Cloud is going to cost you the same amount of money as on-prem does. It's just a different delivery mechanism. So absolutely, everything that you had to do before, you still need to do in the cloud. And all of our solution is designed to work in both environments, so both sides of the fence, sort of. We don't have specific components for cloud workloads or cloud applications or cloud installations. So our real-time monitoring, our modeling capabilities, our high-level reporting, et cetera, all of those can, consume data from a data center environment as well as a public cloud environment. So we can federate the two views and put them together. And if you have workloads and business services that crosses that fence and part of it runs in a cloud and part of it runs back office and on-prem, we can report on those side by side. So absolutely, we are very much dealing with cloud environments in how we do things.
Yeah, I would just add to that I agree. I think that there's so many different tools out there. If you're using VMware, you have your own set of tools. If you're in the cloud, you have the CloudWatch tools. But to have one place, one solution to bring it all together is extremely valuable.
And then there was one more question before we wrap up. I'll try to answer that very quickly. So, can we consume data from Nagios was one question. So again, I can say yes to that one. We can basically consume data from any source. We have our own data collectors that we provide, which are very powerful and very capable and very resource efficient, et cetera. But if you happen to already have data collection available in monitoring solution, we can plug in with that and consume that data instead. So we don't have to replace or duplicate the monitoring of your environment. We can use the data that is already available, if it is. And if it's not, we can provide coverage of those components as well.
Great. All right. Thank you, everyone, for attending today's webinar. We just had a half an hour today. It was a brief one. If you want to find out more information, you can go to www.teamquest.com. There's a resources section there, and you can find white papers or previous webinars, as well as get a better glimpse into the product that we have to offer.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you, everyone.